Section 336. The next generation of Baltimore sports talk.
Section 336. Matt, Josh, and Bert are at the games, hidden behind home plate. Let's go O's! Section 336.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Baltimore sports fans of all ages, welcome to Section 336, next generation of Baltimore sports talk. I'm your dearly stuttering host, Matt Soroka. As always, I'm joined by the zany Bert Rohde.
What up, coconuts?
And the button lover, Josh Soroka.
Hey, I figured Matt's been fooling around, found a way to change his name on the little screen.
Yeah, you see my new name now?
Yeah, it says I'm joined by Adley Rutschman. So, unfortunately,
Yeah, I hate to break it to you, it's just me.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's a little better looking than you.
I don't know about that.
I think you're pretty darn handsome, Matt.
Thank you, Bert.
Okay. This is weird. We're recording at an earlier time so we can hear one of your kids in the background.
Yeah, that's me. That's what, if you record before 7:30, there's a good chance you're going to hear a crying baby in the background. That's just the way it is.
I get it. I get it. It's it's why we normally go after bedtime.
It's mayhem in Graysonville.
That's absolutely right. Stay away until 7:30. Then everything's all good. But speaking of babies, the Orioles drafted a bunch of babies today.
Yeah,
and yesterday.
Rushman's like the old guy in the group.
He's 21. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into it. This is our call it our draft our draft post game show, if you will.
Like day one recap.
Yeah, although now we can almost do a day two recap at this point as well. Sure. But the Orioles, to no one's surprise, though, right before Rutschman was drafted, in the hours leading up to it, and like the day before, there was chatter that the Orioles maybe would not go with Rutschman.
Right.
And even like if you look at Elias's comments after it, there were I think he said 30 people in the room, and not everyone agreed that Adley Rutschman was the guy. Bert, Josh, how do you feel with the Orioles going with the catcher with the number one pick of the draft?
I would have been happy with, I think, any of those top three, Bobby Witt Jr. and Vaughn. But Rutschman was the one I think I wanted, and I think a lot of people. Never. Trip Norton's always there. Wanted. I'm very happy. This is the first time ever in my life I gave a crap about the MLB draft. To sit down on the couch and watch it in anticipation to see who the Orioles would pick. And
I think the big takeaway for me was, just like you, I've never really paid attention to the draft. Like, I've seen highlights of the draft. I know they set it up on that fake baseball field with the tables. They bring player representatives.
So I was
right. The Major League Baseball draft sucks. The NBA draft's more fun. The NFL draft's more fun.
Very excited, and I'm hoping for round 2 next year.
Why do the Orioles need 5 minutes
to do it all over again next year?
Why do they need to use their whole 5 minutes to figure it out when they've got the number one draft pick? Nothing changed. You can't trade draft picks around. But Adley Rutschman,
I enjoyed it too much to not want to do it again.
I'm kind of surprised that the Orioles didn't screw it up, and I think we were years of them finding ways to disappoint fans. So I was expecting something different. But Adley Rutschman, best guy on the board. So yeah, you can't mess with that. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's talking about in Elias we trust. If I'm being honest with you guys, this sounds stupid to say, but I trust Dan Duquette more with the draft, especially with the number one pick, than I do Mike Elias. I mean, if you look at Mike Elias' track record in Houston, everyone talks about Correa. People don't talk about how he had 3 number one picks, and Correa was the only one that worked out. And he turned out to be great, but 1 out of 3 isn't very good odds in my book. So I'm glad Mike Elias didn't try to get too cute and just took the guy that everyone said was the best player in the draft.
Right. And that's part of me kind of wanted to see him go in a different direction, to see everyone freak out who's been doing this whole walk with Elias thing, to see if they would see them all freak out when he doesn't do what they predict.
But I mean, the thing I want to the reason I'm excited about Mike Elias, not because he's going to make the best pick number 1 overall. I mean, we could do that. I could go up there and draft Adley Rutschman, and I would have. What we want him for is player development with all the metrics, and we do want him to see if he can find some guys lower in the lower rounds or higher rounds, however you want to call it.
Yeah, phase 2 and 3,
based on his metrics, right? But Dan Duquette, don't get it twisted. We got a lot of guys right now in the minors playing really well at the low levels who are Dan Duquette pitchers, Dan Duquette guys. And so Dan Duquette did a good job with the draft. Our problem was we kept on trading them away because we were trying to win now all the time. But Mike Elias, I'm glad he did the right thing and took the best player that everyone agrees is the best player.
And he's going to be catching for those guys sooner than later, right?
Yeah, I'd be curious. There's some questions here, right? The Oregon State season's over, so he can start as soon as he signs.
Right. So they got to work out that deal, which is pretty much worked out ahead of time for the top guys.
Yeah, you would hope so.
But then it's, does he go to the Keys? Do they start him in Delmarva, or how quickly do they bring him up to Bowie
or Aberdeen?
Or Aberdeen. Did Aberdeen start their season yet?
I think they start soon, and that's where I think a lot of the draft picks normally go.
Yes.
If they're ready to play professional ball, they go to Aberdeen.
But
rarely do they skip Aberdeen.
But that's the high schoolers. That's the young guys, not the guys who already put in multiple years at college.
I think you see a lot of them still go there.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see him at Bowie, at least for a year.
Adam Pohl put on Twitter he thinks that he'll be in Bowie this year.
No.
He's just trying to sell tickets.
He's trying to sell tickets. He's
in fact,
biased.
You know what? I heard that he's going to be there by Father's Day. You got to get your tickets now.
I want to know, the starting lineup came out today. Why isn't Adley Rutschman in the starting lineup?
Right. Someone messaged me last night, and I said how Oriole fans love to be negative, and I got a private message last night saying, well, the Orioles have a history of only 50% of their first round draft picks have made it to the majors and made an impact. And my response to him was, 50% sounds pretty good, because I think for the overall draft, it's about 10% of people who actually make it through the minors and into the major leagues. So I think 50% sounds pretty good when there was only one number 1 pick overall in that entire time, which is Ben McDonald. So, and baseball has changed, but Rutschman clearly will make it to the majors. That's not an issue. But I think it's tough. You still got to get through the minors. We've seen lots of guys flame out trying to get through the minors.
Yeah, I mean, because when you're projecting, you're asking yourself, how will Rutschman do against guys who are just a lot better than what he's playing in college? And it's almost impossible to tell how he's going to hit against Zach Britton, or even how he's going to hit against a really good pitcher in Double-A, because they're so much better than the college pitchers.
And that's why, right? Well, that's also why you went with Rutschman, because there's less questions. Where with Bobby Witt, it was the questions of what happens when we put him in a gym, what happens when he's old enough to drink, what happens when he's not in high school and not being raised by his parents, what happens when he's out on his own and has a real job, how committed is he to this? There's a whole lot more questions than with a young kid, than an older guy who's already put on muscle, already's been in the gym daily, Rutschman hasn't focused on one sport,
but has faced high level college pitching.
Right.
Yeah.
And Rutschman was drafted by the Mariners 4 or 5 years ago, in the 40th round, and decided not to sign to go to college. I mean, it was a very late round, so it wasn't that big of an impact, but it seems like he had his priorities in order, and he's benefited from it tremendously.
Wait, and it goes to show how much players change, right? How it's hard to project. Like Bobby Witt, right? Who's now a high schooler. That's when Adley Rutschman was a high schooler. And so his stock obviously shot through the roof
right.
in the 3 years that he played in college, because you got to play 3 years of college baseball. Whereas a guy like Bobby Witt, his stock, who knows where his stock will be in 3 years, whether it's higher or lower.
Well, sure. Yeah, that's true. Now, the difference is Rutschman in 3 years should be in the majors making an impact, when Bobby Witt is probably going to be in 3 years still be a high one. Might be one of the top prospects.
And it sealed the deal for me when I saw the little piece they did on Bobby Witt Jr. Before the draft, showing off his bedroom in his parents' house where he's got his Dustin Pedroia autographs and his Derek Jeter jerseys. I was like, let the Royals have him. I don't want that kid anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions there, right?
Right.
A lot of questions with that. Yeah.
I like that Rushman's from like a small town in the middle of nowhere.
He seems like I don't want to make any comparisons, but
let's just say he said he's
like.
never been to the state of Maryland.
Never been to the East Coast, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, good. East Coast means no Yankees, no Red Sox.
Yeah.
He's the type of guy that grew up down the street from Oregon, went to Oregon. So, hometown kid. Hopefully he can make it on the East Coast.
Yeah. We shall see. And we'll see sooner than later. It raises some interesting questions. I mean, we're also at the same time kind of weird. We have coincidental, I would call this, that we just called up Chance Sisco around the same time that we drafted Adley Rutschman. Coincidence or no?
No. Yes, coincidence. He was doing good enough to deserve a shot. But convenient that, hey, you got to show your stuff because we might want to move you before the end of July.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence. There's a lot of guys doing well in the minor leagues right now. Why does the catcher get called up?
Because our catchers suck.
So do a lot of our guys. Yeah. You seen our shortstop lately?
All right. Yeah, but he's a Rule 5 guy. That's why he's sticking around. But all right. I'll go with it. I'll go with no coincidence. It's time to show up.
Yeah, because what do you do with Chance Sisco is the question. Like, what if Chance Sisco plays well? As I see it,
if he plays well, you keep him.
You keep him.
Well, no, it doesn't matter. If he plays well, you trade him at July. If he plays well and there's no interest in him, then he's your catcher next year. Rutschman's not going to be in the majors in 2020.
Yeah, I get it. But he will in 2021.
Yeah, so if you can't move Sisco this year, you move him next year.
Yeah.
Assuming he plays well. If he plays bad, he's done.
Yeah, as I see it, there's 3 options on what to do with Chance Sisco. One is to keep him as the backup for Rutschman. Option 2 is to move him to a corner, outfield, or first base position. And option 3 is to trade him, though I don't know how much you get back for him since he's so kind of unproven and really hasn't lived up to the high prospect status that he's had for a while. So I'm taking that one off the board, trading him. And so now, do you want to use that guy just as a backup? Or do you want to move him if his bat's good enough to a corner outfield or first base position? But, of course, the problem you run into there is we have so many corner outfielders and first basemen that there's really not room for him in the near future in either the outfield or first base. So what I would like to see him play backup, but play a bunch as a backup. And I would like to see them do some things with Adley Rutschman because I think playing catcher is torture on your body. I would like to see them be a little creative. And instead of catching Adley Rutschman, 140 times a season, I would like to see him catch Adley Rutschman like 100 times a season.
Well, that's what they did. That's what Buck did with Matt Wieters and Caleb Joseph.
But I think like even more of that. Yeah, you're right. He did do that a little bit, but even more of that, and put Rutschman more at DH, put Rutschman at first base, so you keep his bat in the lineup. But then if Chance Sisco plays well, you also get a chance to have some more Chance Sisco action. That's just a thought.
Elias did talk a little bit about that last night when they were asking him like when he's going to be ready, what's the plan for him, and he did make a comment with how we've seen him catch enough this year, but we want to get the bat in play. See if the bat progresses.
Yeah, this is my favorite thing about Adley Rutschman. Do you know how annoyed and tired I am of everyone saying Chance Sisco, after 24 years in the minors, his defense we still need to work on some aspects of his defense.
Rutschman, no concern.
Rutschman, no, he's not being. If he's held in the minors, it will not be because of his defense. So thankfully, we don't have to worry about that discussion at all. So no one can tell me this guy's hitting 500 in the minors. Oh, but his pop time or his pitch framing or something other nonsense is not where they want it to be, so they're holding him down. That will not fly with Adley Rutschman. So I'm excited about that. Other picks, if we can get to some of the other picks.
Sure.
Day one, the second round, they drafted Henderson Gunner. A pretty good name.
That's a shortstop, right?
Shortstop out of Alabama high school.
Isn't his
kid.
first name Gunner?
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's Gunner Henderson.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
All right. We're 2 for 2 with good names.
Yeah. The concern about him, though, is
Besides
signability.
being a high schooler.
The signability, right?
Because he could go to college.
Yeah, he's got an offer from Auburn to play. So he could go to Auburn and play unless we can sign him.
And that's part of that whole slot money thing that nobody understands, that I'm not going to try to explain because I don't understand. But that was the whole talk with maybe we don't sign Rutschman so we have more money for these lower slot guys.
Yeah, and I saw a couple people on Twitter say we drafted Zach Watson in the third round. And I heard some people saying, well, Zach Watson's not that good. But I heard maybe we drafted him so we could sign him less than his pick value, which is $800,000. Maybe we can sign him for $400,000 and give the extra $400,000 to Gunnar Henderson in an effort to persuade him to sign and not go to college.
Which works out fine if you convince Gunnar to not go to college.
Yeah, if you gave me $2 million, I wouldn't go to college either.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would skip college for a lot less than that.
Yeah, you give me like $100 and we could talk.
A gift card to Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'm yours.
I mean, it's a difference. It's a difference last year with the first round, but we talked about on draft night last year. Grayson Rodriguez was committed and signed to play at Texas A&M, and then we signed him in the first round and gave him $4.3 million. So he opted for us instead. I mean, that's the difference between first round and a second round, though. Gunnar Henderson isn't going to get $4.3 million.
No, he'd be lucky if he gets 2, yeah.
Right, but then Auburn could be going to Gunnar and say, hey, come to our program for 3 years and we'll get you into the first round. Then you'll make some real money.
Yeah, but you're going to go to college for 3 years to, best case scenario, make a couple $1 million more, but worst case scenario, you could lose it all.
Yeah, but nobody goes to college. If you're choosing college, it's not to make more money. It's because you've got that education to back up on, and you're being offered a free ride to Auburn.
Yeah,
he'll get a free ride.
Put in those 3 years just to find some high school punk living in his parents' basement like Bobby Wood Jr. getting $8 million from the Kansas City Royals. You went to college for those 3 years for nothing. Exactly.
So that's something to watch. Apparently, he's got a lot of great tools. He center fielder named Kyle Stowers. Yeah. So if you look at the Orioles picks, here it is. Number 1 catcher, Adley Rutschman. But if you look at so we drafted him, and then we drafted a center fielder out of Stanford, another college player, a left-handed center. Number 2, a shortstop, Gunnar Henderson. Number 3, a center fielder, Kyle Stowers. Number 4, a center fielder, Zach Watson. Number 5, shortstop, Joseph Ortiz. 7, Daryl Hernandez, a shortstop. And then we drafted a catcher, Maverick Hanley. And then we drafted another outfielder, a center fielder, Johnny Reiser. So our first 8 picks were all...
Catcher, shortstop, center field.
We're all shortstop, center field, or catcher.
Now, isn't that because...
Up the middle.
Well, right. Well, it's up the middle. It shows that Mike Elias values defense, but it's also that's where your best players on high school and college teams play. Your shortstop is generally the best player. Your center fielder has the most speed in general, so that he can move to a corner outfield. Your catcher has the power that can move to first. So it makes sense to go with those 3 positions. You're not going to draft a second baseman out of college.
I mean, you can. I mean, the third pick was the first baseman.
You can, and you can sure, you can draft a right fielder if you want, but why wouldn't you draft the center fielder and put him in right field?
Yeah.
or a shortstop and put him at second base.
Well, and the reason is because if you draft a center fielder, it shows that they have athleticism and speed.
right.
Now, maybe a right fielder has more power or something.
Maybe.
Because they drafted DJ Stewart. Remember, I think DJ Stewart was a corner outfielder in college, but he was high on base and power guy. But it shows that the Orioles are valuing speed and athleticism because they're taking positions that's, for speed and athleticism. But you're right. Like Adam Jones was a shortstop. Freaking Michael Givens was a shortstop. So, I mean, a lot of these guys are drafted as shortstops because they're the best, whether it's high school or college. They're kind of the best at player on the team, and they play shortstop. And then once they get to a major league team and there's, athletes everywhere, they find their position. So
Well,
just because they're drafted
Michael
shortstop
Elias
doesn't mean they're a shortstop.
Right, and Elias has even already said that with certain guys. Well, yeah, he's a center fielder, but we think he's going to make it to the majors in a corner outfielder.
Right. And anytime you're outside of like the top 2 rounds, you're just hoping to get a major leaguer in any capacity.
Right.
But it is interesting that, all through round 7, and we had 8 picks, I believe, in the first 7 rounds, not a single pitcher was taken by the Orioles, which is, Dan Duquette was, drafting pitchers all over the place left and right. We need pitching help. It's our most obvious need of the team. And I think it's a need still on the farm is pitching. Are you surprised or disappointed that the Orioles didn't take any pitchers in the first 8 rounds?
No surprise, because we were led into this saying that this class is very weak on pitching. And then when you look at the Orioles and in that low A, Shorebirds, we've got pitching that seems to be developing. Our process seems to be working. When we've had Duquette really focus on pitching for the past few years, you would hope that there's some guys in there that the process can clean up and fix and bring out some guys.
All right. Fine.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're from all I'm hearing, we're stacked at pitching right now in the low ball, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, and again, everyone hates to say it, but we're stacked in the low minors, maybe because of Mike Elias's and the analytics, but mostly I think because Dan Duquette drafted, put a value in drafting arms. I mean, you mentioned Grayson Rodriguez. One of the reasons the Orioles were able to sign Grayson Rodriguez is we took him, I think it was number 11 overall, when a lot of people thought he would go at the end of the first round, and we took him higher, thus we could give more money, and he turns out to be one of the best pitchers of his draft class thus far. So that turned out to be a really great pick. But you're right. I'm excited of kind of bringing up Adley Rutschman with these young pitchers, with Grayson Rodriguez, with DL Hall. I want to see next year, I want to see a Bowie rotation with Grayson Rodriguez, with DL Hall, with Cody Sedlock, if you want to throw him in there.
Right.
With all these kind of top-notch pitchers, all and by that point, Keegan Aiken better be in the majors, by the way. And
Right.
Dean Creamer, too, better be in the majors.
So from that angle, you would want to send, no matter how well Rushman's bat plays, start him at low A, send him to Delmarva so that he starts working with these pitchers and you move them all up together.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
That you graduate them all together, or you graduate them this offseason from Delmarva to Bowie. You move them up the following to Frederick.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Or not Frederick, I guess Norfolk would be after Bowie. But you kind of graduate them somewhat together within months of each other.
Yeah. And they all seem to, right now DL Hall is in Frederick, I think, and Grayson Rodriguez is at Delmarva, so they're not even in the same place now.
Right.
But I would like to see them get on the same place. I think Grayson Rodriguez
you're right,
can move fast.
By Bowie, they will all be on the same place. At some point, they'll all be in Bowie. Kind of how we saw Machado and Scope travel together.
Yeah.
And move up together. And Machado got a little bit ahead of Scope, but still they followed each other.
Yeah. There's this year, boys, is really turning out to be a great year for the Orioles. It really is. If you look at how our young pitching is playing in the minors, and that's almost more important than how our major league pitching is pitching, honestly. And if you look at our additions of Adley Rutschman, Adley Rutschman, face of the franchise, you need stars on a team, right? You need superstars.
Right.
The Orioles have 0 superstars. Sorry, Trey Mancini. The Orioles have 0 superstars. And so he becomes that superstar that you can build around. So I'm pumped about this year. I think this has been a super successful year for the Orioles thus far. And I'm excited to see what the rest of the season holds.
And the major league roster is doing exactly what they got to do. They're trying to secure that number one draft pick.
I'm going to get pissed with every win they have the rest of this year. It's so pointless.
I'm not going that
far. It's so pointless. Why bother?
What
are we going to gain from it other than letting some other team get that number one pick next year?
Yeah,
I don't know, but it hurts too much to try to root for a loss.
Yeah, and
doesn't hurt me.
Crying. I wouldn't be crying if we were walking away this year with the number 2 pick and Bobby Witt Jr., right? I'm not crying over that. So,
or even the Vaughn kid at number 3.
Even the Vaughn kid. They say he's the best hitter of them all. And so, shoot, I would take a top 3. As long as we're top 5, I'm okay.
What do you think?
But I hear you,
What do you
Bert.
think about the conversation? I wanted to get your thoughts and share mine. The difference between taking Bobby Witt and taking Adley Rutschman as to when they could potentially come up and when they will make an impact, because Witt, obviously high school senior, 4 or 5, maybe more years away from being major league ready, where Adley Rutschman maybe 2 years or less away, and where the Orioles are in the rebuild process. Do we bring Rutschman up too early where we're still rebuilding and all of a sudden now his major league clock starts ticking, whereas a Bobby Witt would be coming up in the prime of when the rebuild should be reaping rewards? I think they went in the right direction. In my opinion, I think, Rutschman might come up in a year or two, but I'd also like to see him get a year or two of major league experience under his belt before we're like World Series ready. Whereas Witt could be coming up when you're World Series ready, but he's not as much of a contributor as he will be in the years after that.
Yeah, it's like people just want to say we're going to win the World Series in 2023, and that's when Witt would make his debut, and so all of a sudden Witt walks on and we go to the World Series. I look at by the time Rutschman gets here in 2 years, that's when the Orioles start to be competitive again. And
because that's when some of the pitchers hit as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that we're going to the playoffs or winning the World Series the year that Rutschman gets there. And I'm with Bert, though. You get a year or two to kind of grow and field your position and get comfortable. And then, but you're playing competitive baseball again. Then you start signing free agents. But I also see the Orioles window as not being, like a lot of people, when they talk about the Orioles, like they talk about them like they're 3 years away from being 3 years away. And that's not how I view it. I view the Orioles as being 3 years away from being competitive. And in 3 years, that's when all those young pitchers will be in the majors. That's when we'll be a competitive baseball team. And then it's up to some free agent signings and how some of these players do. But I don't like this. Let's just draft people who are 10 years old and plan to be good in 2040. Right. No, like the sooner we're good, the better in my mind. So, yes, draft a guy who's close to major league ready. It's still 2 years away, right? He's still not this year, not next year. The year after is when he's going to be making a big impact for the Orioles. So,
and part of this is still being used to the Orioles not having a plan. And we kind of thinking that we lucked into 2012. When we didn't really luck into 2012, it came earlier than people expected, but that was the plan was to develop these people. I think you can look back and you look at a guy like Matt Wieters, who was praised as Jesus in cleats and all, and we brought him up ahead of everyone else. He came up, he was up here, and then the rest of the pitching staff and people came up, and then we started to win. He was a couple years early, which means we lost him, but I don't think we would be in that same position.
And I look back at what Manny Machado was called up in 2012 when we made that playoff push, and he made an immediate impact, but he wasn't the same Manny Machado we got in 2014 when we won the American League East, albeit he got hurt at the end of the season. But, had he stayed healthy, we might be sharing World Series rings with each other.
Right, but 2012 wasn't about Machado. It was about the Davis just destroying the ball and
totally
defense and pitching.
But the fact that Machado comes up and plays a stellar third base as a 20-year-old, we expected him to be good, but not this good.
Yeah, remember the whole conversation about how he's never played third base? And then that turned into a conversation of how much better does having that defense on the corners make.
And then it turned into who's Brooks Robinson?
Yeah. It changed that whole year around. It changed our defense. And you're right, he wasn't a great offensive player when he first came up, but he's great defensively. And we had a freaking sinkhole at third base, and so he changed that whole team around.
Right.
And you brought him up when he was really young. So Bert's right. There's no saying with a number 1 pick next year that we can't get a high schooler at the number 1 overall pick and bring him up a year after Rutschman.
Right.
Like, that's not insane to say.
Or next year you do the exact same thing. You take a college kid, and then you've got 2 guys who are number 1 draft picks who are ready in 3 years rather than 5 years.
Yeah.
That can drastically improve your window, and that's not even taking into account what Duquette drafted that Mike Elias will be working with.
Yeah, yeah. And here's what Mike Elias said, and I agree with him. Like, let's just for a second put aside high school, college, whatever. Who's the better player? Right? Who is the better player? And Mike Elias said, all things being equal, Adley Rutschman was the better player. So we took Adley Rutschman.
I know this just happened last night, but I'm getting used to getting the best amateur baseball player in the country on our team, and I want it again next year. And it makes me even more irritated. They all those chips last year for international signing money, and we couldn't bring in Victor and his brother and all these people we saved all that money for nothing, basically.
But that's step 2 of this is in a month when international signings open up, and we've got Mike Elias already going out and saying, hey, this is going to be the busiest the organization's ever been. That's the other thing we're looking for Mike Elias. Like you started the show with anyone could have chose Rutschman. That's true, but it's today, tomorrow, and that international signings next month where we're really looking to Mike Elias. Not to mention the whole Sig Mejdal and the analytics of working with these guys in the minors.
Yeah, the player development is huge. Absolutely. That's something, especially with pitching, right? We always draft a bunch of pitchers. We've struggled to develop the pitchers. Yeah. And so you hope with the sabermetrics they're able to develop the pitchers.
This is fun. We're having a positive episode about the Orioles. It's been a while.
Well, and it's kind of amazing. Bert mentioned, you got me thinking, Bert, it's almost unbelievable. All the losing we've done as a franchise, and we've only ever had the number 1 overall pick one other time.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing for how bad we've been.
That just means there's always been someone slightly worse than us.
Yeah.
Right. Does it make it more amazing that we might get it back to back?
The difference is it's been a different team every year that's slightly worse than us, whereas we're consistently at the bottom.
Well, because we always try to win a little bit. That was always our mistake. We always tried to win a little bit.
Where this is the first time we built a team to lose.
Yeah. Though, so Bert, your least favorite player right now must be Trey Mancini.
Why? Because he's a superstar.
Because he's helping us win baseball
I don't know.
games.
Yeah, you say Trey.
Do you boo Trey Mancini?
No, I don't. But you were. I think you were facetious when you said Trey Mancini is currently the face of the franchise. He is a low rent face of the franchise right now in comparison to the rest of the teams in the league. Yeah, he's our face of the franchise, but he is not a blip on anyone else's radar, I don't think.
No, he is the face of the franchise, and this whole all-star vote for Mancini 2019 is all about Mike Elias calling up all the other teams and saying, hey, you see Trey Mancini? You want Trey Mancini? I mean, he's the face as in we're trying to sell him. And we're waving him in everyone's face, trying to say, hey, look.
Well, then I'm all for it. I'm all for more young talent. I'm getting a taste for these young boys.
That's weird.
All right, let me just write down the show title right here.
Bert gets a taste for the young boys. Yeah. I mean, I think Trey Mancini is the face of the franchise. Just like it reminds me of the ace discussion, right? Who's the ace of the Orioles? Right now, John Means is the ace of our staff. Now, I know the Orioles literally do not have an ace and haven't had an ace since probably Mike Messina. I get that. But every team has to have a starter who's, is their number 1 starter. You call that an ace. Every team has to have, quote-unquote, a face. And Trey Mancini, to this point, has been that face. Though one could argue that Adley Rutschman is the new face of the Orioles. I don't know. You guys think his face is worthy enough to be the face of a franchise?
Alex Rutschman or Trey Mancini?
Alex.
Adley Rutschman.
Who's Alex?
Adley. Oh, because I was going to ask you what happened to Alex Cobb. because we were talking about Ace. So I was thinking, I was Googling Alex Cobb to try to find out what happened to Alex
Some kind
Cobb.
of blister on
Whatever.
the finger, I'm sure.
Hibaldo Jimenez, part 2.
Right. No, I think I'm wondering when they put the banners up at Camden Yards with Adley Rutschman's face on it.
Yeah, when do we see a billboard?
They're gonna let's see. The Orioles are on the road now. I mean, I'm thinking next homestand they're flying him in to show him off, right?
I mean, technically he's not on the team yet. He's got to sign.
They got to sign him, but you'd think that would take place in the next week or two.
One would hope.
So, I assume they're going to have him in there. They're going to be showing him on the Jumbotron, waving him on Masson. Everyone's going to be talking about him.
Are you guys
How
going?
quickly do they get Rutschman 35 jerseys in the store?
Are you guys going to his first game?
If it's next Tuesday, hey, it might be next Tuesday. That's Margaritaville night. I'm going. So maybe they'll announce him then.
You mean the game that they announced him, or like his game, that first game in 2 years, or his first game in Single A?
No, I meant his first professional game for the Orioles in the minors.
At the Keys or whatever, wherever he goes.
I'm hoping for Delmarva. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm still in the state, then yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
If I'm in Florida, I'll see him whenever I can. It'll be tough.
Spring training.
You know what I will do is I'll sign up for that stupid MILB TV where I can watch the minor league games.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
will do that to see Rutschman.
You're right. I've been tempted to do that to see Grayson Rodriguez and DL Hall and them.
I've been trying to get people to tell me, like, is it worth it? What games do they show? How's the quality? And it seems like it's so-so. So I haven't made the purchase yet, but for Adley, I'd probably do it.
Yeah. Well, if he starts in Delmarva, I'm there for this first.
And I'm pushing for them to fly him into Baltimore and have him wave to the fans next Tuesday night at Camden Yards. Because I'll be there.
Well, because you'll be there and you can wave back.
Yeah, whatever day they say he's going to come announce, I'd be tempted to go to that just because it'd be fun to cheer at Camden Yards again. All the guys that gathered up at Jimmy's to cheer on the draft pick, it looked cool. It looked like a good time, and it showed you how much we really do want winning baseball in Baltimore. That we had there was a bar packed of super Oriole fans for the worst draft in sports.
Yeah, I saw the video of that, and that is cool, and I think that does say a lot about the team, and also how, I don't know, Oriole fans are smart. Like, stay off Facebook, and you'll realize Oriole fans are pretty smart.
And so we realize what the show out there.
Yeah, we realize what's going on out there, and we realize that this is a big step in the Orioles becoming a competitive team. I'm excited to see, like, next year how they view this Orioles farm system, given how we had so many minors having great years, plus the addition of Adley Rutschman, how our minor league system ranks. I bet we jump up. We've been traditionally in the bottom of the pack, especially if you're Ken Rosenthal, who hates the Orioles.
I was going to say it's weird because so many reporters hate Peter Angelos that no matter what they're gonna view the Orioles negatively.
They're putting up the numbers though that you can't justify viewing them negatively when you're comparing the systems right now.
Sure.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so many reporters with some connection to the Baltimore Sun too. What is that?
Yes,
they all would do the Baltimore
They'll hire anyone.
Back when the Baltimore Sun was huge.
The Baltimore Sun used to be like a big name paper.
It was huge, yeah. And now we got Peter Schmuck.
Now it's Schmuck.
No, we love Peter Schmuck.
But if you want to read about the Orioles now, you got to follow Dan Connolly. He had a great article last week about Rutschman, where he went out to Oregon and met with the family and met Rutschman and his teammates and everything and all that. And it's like, why is the Sun not doing reporting like that? Dan Connolly is.
Yeah, and that's what the Athletic, that's why they exist, right? Because there was that need.
Yeah,
and they're filling that need.
Right, and it helps that for the Athletic, if suddenly the Orioles don't draft don't draft Rutschman, they can just put that Dan Connolly article on the website for the Royals or something.
Yeah, they have a lot of resources.
Yep.
Yeah. But I think at the worst, they're going to jump up to the middle of the pack at worst, and at best to like a 10 or spot. Then you throw a number.
There's no way they're jumping to 10 next year.
You don't think so?
With just this season.
And the draft picks and the addition of Adley Rutschman. I mean, he jumps. I mean, they judge us a lot by like top 100 prospects, right? He immediately becomes a top 100 prospect.
Yes, Is he number one in our organization immediately, or is he
absolutely.
number 2 behind that other kid?
Behind Ryan Mountcastle, who's having a great year.
Oh, the guy we got on the Machado trade.
Oh,
Diaz.
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 Yes.
U.S. Diaz is going down. His stock's going down. He's been hurt all year.
Typical.
He's been hurt all year. I mean, he hasn't played all that well when he has been healthy.
All right.
So his stock's going down. So right now, if you're going to rank
Rutschman number 1, Mountcastle number 2, you're saying.
Who's number 1?
Rutschman.
Yeah. So right now, I'll put Mountcastle number 1 and Grayson Rodriguez or DL Hall as 2 and 3, however you're going to split that.
Okay, you're putting pitchers up there.
Yeah. But I think Rutschman immediately goes to number 1. Immediately goes to number 1.
If you're saying we've got pitchers in number 2 and number 3, then it's no surprise the Orioles didn't grab pitchers.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think if you asked Elias, he would say he took the best player available, which is when you're talking because.
Which is what this is what we've praised Ozzie Newsome for years.
Well, this is what every baseball team should be doing, right? Because it's so far away, and you don't know how any of the prospects are going to pan out. Who would No, I'm not going to draft. I'm not going to draft a left fielder because Trey Mancini's playing really well right now. What is that? Get out of here. So
right.
It doesn't make sense.
That's what I think it was Schmuck. No, it was Stan Charles put out on Twitter. What do you think of the Orioles draft? Does this fill the holes in the lineup? And I'm like, what are you talking about, the lineup?
Does it fill the holes in the lineup in 2022? And you don't know what that lineup will look like in 2022.
No, what I know right now is there's 9 holes in the lineup, and there's a bunch of holes in the bullpen, and there's 5 holes in our rotation. So, yeah.
According to Steve Molesky an hour ago, Diaz has been moved from Frederick to Bowie.
Oh, he's moving on up.
No, he's not moving up. All right. Diaz.
Bowie is ahead of Frederick.
Yeah, but Diaz started the year in Bowie. And he must have been doing some sort of rehabilitation thing in Frederick as come back from an injury.
Fine. Well, come on out on Father's Day and see Diaz and us at the Bowie Bay Sox. We've got 9 days left to sell tickets, which means it's probably 8 or 7 whenever you're listening to this. Get online at Section 336. Click at the top join us for Father's Day. Bring your dad. Help us out. We need a better show.
$10, one Hamilton.
Hamilton's on the $10 bill? I thought it was Jefferson.
Jefferson's on the $2 bill.
Okay. Gotcha. Then that's why I don't see Jefferson much.
Yeah, he's a $10 founding father without a father.
All right. When do we get Harriet Tubman on the $50
Ask
bill
Donald
or something,
Trump.
right?
Oh, Bert getting political. We're having such a nice, friendly, positive show, too.
But yeah, seriously, come join us for the Bay Sox.
Seriously. Enough joking around.
Right, no joking. Need you to come. Play catch on the field ahead of time. Get your Bay Sox pint glass. Hopefully they're glass, not
outdoor
plastic,
pint glasses. Give me a break.
Right. None of this outdoor stuff. I like my pint glasses indoors.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great day. I mean, the weather's gonna be beautiful. There's optimism around all of Birdland right now after the draft. It's a good time.
Guys,
to have a sucky team, it's a good time to be a fan.
They said we can throw out the first pitch.
Yeah.
And I'm really embarrassed about throwing out the first pitch.
Yeah.
Because we haven't sold enough tickets. I'm like, I don't want to throw.
If we don't have at least 100 people there, I'm not throwing out the first pitch.
I'm not going to do it if no one knows who we are.
Yeah.
Do you ever know who's throwing out the first pitch? I've never been to a game where I know who's throwing the first pitch. It's always somebody who raised money for a foundation or something.
Yes, but you know who's there? That foundation cheering them on. So you at least hear someone way up in the upper deck cheer for a moment when he goes out there.
Josh, I'll cheer you on.
We cheer for each other. We support one another.
Yeah,
okay.
But I'm doing it from the stands.
Right. I'm going to trip one of you guys walking out there so that the fans have something entertaining.
Yeah. All right. Anything else for the good? There is It was also nice how the Orioles had a day off yesterday too, right?
But I was going to say let's not talk about the major league team.
I got nothing to talk about with them, except I hope they keep losing.
Chris Davis is coming back, so that will help Bert's cause.
He's in the lineup tonight. Very excited.
I almost peed my pants when I saw the lineup.
Yep. Hey,
the lineup was bizarre, by the way, but we don't need to get into it. but
I was
it looks like
surprised
upside down
that-
and backwards. I don't know. It's weird.
It was weird. I was surprised that Cisco wasn't in the lineup.
Yeah, and
Normally
Severino
when
was
they
batting like
going
number
up.
5 or something.
Yeah, it was weird. Hey, but I did want to ask you: do you know who Jack Young is? The new mayor
Yes,
of Baltimore.
that's where I heard that name.
No.
Yes.
All right, Jack Young's the new mayor of
Interim.
Baltimore. You know, because the other one like ripped off a bunch of kids with books or something.
I wish Graysonville had a mayor. I would run for it. Anyway, go ahead.
That would be great. So, Baltimore's got a murder problem. Just
and a
that.
drug
But
problem.
still,
I've seen The Wire.
Have you seen the mayor has announced what he thinks would be a good way to solve this situation?
Are they putting the deputy Chris Davis on the streets?
No. But I would like to see Chris Davis involved in this. He wants to put a boxing ring in the Civic Center and invite people in there to work out their differences in the boxing ring rather than shooting each other.
This is a definite. Did this guy used to be a high school principal? This is a definite high school principal move.
It is.
When you have a lot of kids fighting.
Right. It's a go back to the right. Go out in the parking lot and deal with this.
Yeah.
And I would love to see. I don't know if I want to go. It seems like a bad idea to have a bunch of people who want to murder each other, like in the stands, cheer on their
Yeah,
leaders.
somebody's going to get
or
murdered
something.
after the boxing match.
Right, or in the middle of the boxing match. So that all sounds like a bad idea. But I am all for more random boxing matches.
Yeah, I agree. They should have those programs, where you can trade in your guns for cash. They should trade in the guns for mittens,
gloves.
for boxing mittens.
Gloves, right? You don't call them mittens. I don't think.
I think people in the business can sometimes.
I think they call them gloves.
No, they call them boxing mittens. Anyway,
They're not kittens.
yeah. Anyway, I would love. Would you feel safe walking to the Orioles stadium and you roll by a bunch of young kids and they all pull out their boxing gloves? Would you guys feel safe, or would you walk a little faster?
Well, I already don't feel safe when they pull out their squeegees.
What if they were pulling out their squeegees while wearing a boxing mitten?
Is that for like the wax on, wax off?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, if I saw a guy rolling at me with a scooter with boxing mittens, I would just bust out my own boxing gloves and not say, "Let's go." I really like this. I could never. I'm not into guns.
That's some jousting.
Yeah, like I would love to sit in the situation where everyone has, in their waistband, an undercover boxing glove, and if things get ugly, they just pull out their undercover boxing glove, and we have, a fist fight.
No, I don't
like
like
this.
I don't like the concealed carry of the boxing gloves, but I like the idea of you've got it hooked on your belt strap walking around.
Yeah.
I do like that.
I mean, I think it's okay to conceal as long
Just in
as
case.
they do background checks. Do you have to do background checks to get the
Mandatory background check for boxing gloves.
Can you do more damage to someone with a boxing glove or without?
Oh, I would think.
Like, does it cause more damage with the glove, or does it just
It protects the
protect you?
person
I know,
punching.
it protects your hand. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
But like, if I punch you in the face, what hurts worse?
Huh.
I guess the fact is that by protecting my hand, I can hit you a second time.
And probably harder.
Where if I hit you one time, I'm on the ground holding my hand.
Yeah, though the glove does have a larger surface area to maybe do damage in a greater area.
And then you're all of a sudden bleeding, your eye swells shut, turns your eyeball into liquid, all of a sudden it's dripping down your cheek. It's no good.
You got some boxing experience, Bert?
No. Nope. No boxing experience. Shockingly.
All right, boys and girls. Well, thanks for checking out another episode. We managed to do a positive show on
it's
the
weird.
Orioles. And uncoincidentally, we talked very little about the Major League squad.
Yeah, just about young
Keep
boys.
losing. Keep on losing.
Yeah. Because Bert wants some more young boys.
I just
Keep
want to
on
be
losing.
excited
Yeah.
and watch draft
Yeah.
night again next year. It was fun for that 5 minutes.
Once I settle on a show title, I go into Google Images and I
Yeah,
type that
don't
show
do that.
title
Oh,
in.
watch
do
yourself,
that.
Josh.
I don't think I'm going to do that.
The
I think I'm
FBI
gonna have to
might
find
show
something
up.
else.
Yeah.
I think I'll just put Rutschman up
At
there
the
as
end of this
picture.
season, we're going to look back. What's your best memory of 2019? It was that 5 minutes last night, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
No, maybe cheering them on at Camden Yards. Like
when he comes out and he waves.
Right. That's gonna be
Highlights.
what's gonna be louder, that cheer or like opening day guys running down the orange carpet?
I don't know. Or the
Or how
hot
about
dog
when
race.
Mark
It's
Trumbo
gonna be
comes
close.
back? See, that's gonna be a silent ballpark.
Yeah.
All right, boys and girls, thanks for listening. Find us on Instagram, Section 336 Show, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can also find me on Twitter at Section 336. You can find Bert
At
on
Bert
Twitter.
Rohde.
And you can find Josh on Twitter.
Get your Bay Sox tickets.
Thanks for listening, boys and girls. And as always, go O's. And go Bay Sox.
Thank you for listening to the Section 336 podcast. Please go to iTunes and Facebook for all complaints or the occasional compliment. If I were you, I would not take any baseball advice from these guys. Josh and Matt were raised by an Orioles-obsessed father, and Bert fell in love with Don Mattingly. He has a thing for mustaches.
We should have said take bets on when was the stadium more quiet.